Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first edition of the View from the View podcast. Well, okay, I'm going to contradict myself immediately and say technically this is the first edition of the second version of the View from the View podcast, but this one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about the things that us DJs don't normally talk about, the behind-the-scenes world that we live in, because I think it's entirely a different world to what a lot of people who even maybe adjacent to the DJ world expect. And I quite like revealing a few secrets here and there. I wouldn't quite call myself a magician, but we do have a little magic circle, which is what this community, this group is all about. I'm Mo Stewart, in case you didn't recognise my voice, aka the Mighty Mojo. I've been DJing around Liverpool and a few other places for about 15 to 20 years now, and I've picked up a few tips, a few things on the way. A few mad things have happened to me on the way as well, and I'm sure that's going to be the case for every single one of my guests. And it's time to introduce the first one. Sitting alongside me is what I would call a local legend. He would balk at that suggestion, but it's true, 100%. When I first started DJing in and around town and going from bar to bar, his was one of the sounds that I really was influenced by, and someone who everybody I speak to in the DJ world has only got good words for, the man they call Morf. Steve, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks, Mo. It's fantastic. What a great slick operations going on here as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, this brings me on to a good point, actually. This is very much going to be an audio podcast. I know that nearly everything these days is filmed, and I did think about making this into a video, but I think there are certain conversations that we're going to be having whereby the person on the other end of the microphone might not necessarily want to reveal their face. They might want to stay anonymous and might loosen their tongue a little bit, maybe. We'll see. But yes, rather than recording this in my bedroom, which was my original plan, the lovely people at the Anfield Rapper let us use their studio. So we're draped in red and we've got proper microphones. So you're welcome.
Sounds so clear.
Oh, well, we'll get on to your fancy effects very soon. But we should start at the beginning, because obviously DJing is a strange job, and it's an even stranger job to get into. Everyone I speak to, it seems like their origin story is a little bit weird, a little bit different. Yeah. But one of the reasons I wanted you to be my first guest is you kind of epitomise what I want from this show, as in, not only do you look a lot younger than you actually are, but there's a lot about you that I don't know, and I've known you for a long time. And I suspect that from what I have seen and the kind of skirts around the edges, I'm sure it's very interesting.
There's a few stories in there. I'll try and not self-incriminate myself too much, but
yes, considering I've used your name. But yeah, start at the beginning. Like, tell me how you first got into it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of describe it in that way, because the longer I've been in it, the more I see DJing as almost a refuge for slightly broken people.
100%.
And it's I don't know, I could wax on philosophically for a while about it, but you know, there's something that we all seem to have in common, and I don't want to get on the psychologist's couch too much about it, but, you know, I look at the path I've gone through, and obviously there's been a point in my life where music seems to have filled the gap, and I've just gone, whatever is in me that I need to get out, I'm able to kind of express through this utterly profound medium. I don't really quite understand it, but it's fulfilling a purpose.
It's talking for you, basically.
Exactly, yeah. And especially when I was younger, I was like a sponge, just soaking it all up, just going, I've got to hear new stuff, everything, all the time. I absolutely loved it, and it seemed almost like a sort of natural progression. You know, got into adulthood and was buying records even before I had a record player. And, you know, with the intention of getting decks eventually, because the DJ culture was kind of growing and it was, you know, quite a cool thing. So I'm going to get my decks. And eventually the day came and I got my cam belt drive turntables from Richer Sounds with a little, what are they called? made to fade mixer that was literally a metal box with 2 faders on it. 10 LEDs, 2 faders. It was up and down. That was it. That was your choices. No gain control, no master control, nothing like that. I might have had a crossfader. That might have been the luxury edition. But yeah, and so it's kind of just, that's where it started, really.
And how long were you doing that and messing around before you actually got paid to do it?
Yeah. Well, I suppose I was quite lucky, really. I suppose there was a gap of maybe 2 years from starting in my bedroom to getting my first paid gig. And the reason was because there was a lot of people around me who were really into DJ culture, and there's already people who were pretty good DJs. There was a flatmate of mine had a really good mate called Pablo from Wales, who still DJs, I believe, and used to be signed to like Hard House Records. Am I saying no? Heart House, the ones that Hard Floor were on.
Oh yeah.
And so he was kind of in the social group and also helping me, giving me advice and so on. And so we used to just throw free parties in Liverpool, and they're terrible because it wasn't even that good equipment. We just tried to find whoever had the biggest hi-fi, and we'd invite all our friends round. And it was a kind of time when the clubs would always still kick out at 2:00. So whenever it got to 2 a.m, you'd be outside just going, right, what we're going to do now? And there was always a plan. There was always somewhere to go. Especially with Lark Lane around that time, even if you didn't know the address of a party, you could get a taxi up there, and you'd get dropped off at Lark Lane and just go, shh. And it's like, I think it's Livingston Drive.
Yeah, honestly, it's like the Pied Piper of slide on bass. I've been on that journey many, many times, and in fact, it's around Wavertree as well. And it's funny, isn't it? Because for me and for a lot of other people I've spoken to, that's really part of it. It's like, before you even think about doing it as a job or anything like that, it's, wow, I want to get involved in music. And being in and around it, and parties, and just people just saying, okay, what's next? You're not really thinking about it. And you're kind of taking in all of these extra ideas that are suddenly going to become relevant when you start trying to do it yourself.
Yeah. And I think it was... I'm kind of letting go how old I am here, but I mean, it was well before the era of internet and, probably even mobile phone ownership and stuff like that. And so, yeah.
It's fine.
So, yeah, it was like if you threw a party, there was a lot of random factors, and it was a case of you didn't have unless you hired security, you had no choice over who came in or not. And it kind of, there'd be some wrong uns that turned up, but they'd be diluted by all the happy party people. And in a sense, there was quite an interesting, like, cultural mix of people going on. And it was like a little bit edgy, but not too much to make it feel on top. And it was... lots of people of lots of different tastes as well, all coming and kind of, sharing this kind of still relatively new kind of free party dance music kind of revolution that was going on. And it was very exciting to kind of get on board with that, even if it wasn't from the start. So we eventually we threw more and more parties ourselves, getting better and better equipment, and eventually it got noticed by Mark and Jace Jones, who were running the Mardi Gras at the time on Bold Street, who are currently running Electric, or the one that used to be...
See, this is going to become a running theme of this show as well. The names of places that have changed about 10 or 15 times over the course of the time I was living
Crazy House. I was thinking, the one place that used to be Crazy House, which is now the Electric Warehouse, or is it just Electric?
I don't know. It's still the Crazy House building.
It's where Medication is now, and are we allowed to swear?
Yes, of course.
Shit Indie Disco, and
I mean, that's officially their name. That's not even really technically swearing, unless it's also your comment on those guys. But we'll save that in case they come on.
So anyway, Mark and Jace were running the Mardi Gras on Bold Street, it's not there anymore, but it was a building where Size is now.
Yeah.
It was the first and second floor on there, and it was great place for hearing new music. And they approached us and said, well, why don't you kind of make it official and do something proper in a proper nightclub? And so, yeah. But the first paid gig was a little bit before that. And it was in Bar of all places.
Oh, yes.
But Bar was a different place when it first opened, because it was like something not seen before, and it was in an era when pubs were the de facto place to go and drink in the evening, and it was one of the first places that was a bar rather than a pub, and the design of it was so modern and slick, and to go with it, there was lots of really interesting DJs playing there, and to be asked to play there, I was like, oh, wow. I didn't get asked back. So that was terrible.
Well, I mean, the Bar story is quite an interesting one, because it kind of feeds a little bit into the Bumper story, which is something which also connects both of us. But like Bar, the kind of, for people who aren't known in Liverpool, it's kind of a bit like they have lots of fancy cocktails, bright lights, shiny stuff, but it is essentially the kind of place you go when you're not in control. When other people are saying, let's go to a place, this place looks fun, because it always does look fun, and it always sounds loud and bright and shiny, and it is, to be fair, normally quite full. And I've had some fun times DJing in there, but I probably wouldn't go in as a punter.
Not now. No. It's a fun place, but maybe we're just too old, or I don't know.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the age, because we have kind of skirted around it for quite a lot, and it is a job, really, that most people get into when they're young, when they're going out a lot, and they're like, I'm going out and I'm seeing the world, I'm seeing the culture of DJ, and I want to get involved in it. I'm excited by new music. I want to bring them out, and it's the same music that me and all my mates play, and I want to go out and play it. 1 year older than the kids, as we now undoubtedly are, the mindset kind of changes a little bit. Well, it has for me. But how do you approach your mindset? I mean, how do you approach a set in general in terms of what are you wanting to do? Are you talking about trying to educate people with new music? Or are you just like playing bangers to make people dance? Or are you trying to be a little bit more sophisticated, somewhere in between?
That's a very interesting question, to be honest, because the whole landscape has changed really, because I think when there was a differentiation between places that had a license up until 11:30, and then if you wanted to carry on drinking and go to a nightclub, as it was, which was the only option for carrying on drinking after 11:30, you had to go to a club, and they usually charged to get in. The DJ would get paid well, and he'd play whatever he wanted, and you just
lump it.
Exactly. You just put up with it, because it's like you're happy that you can still buy a drink, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. But now, obviously, there's so many late licenses, and everywhere has a mini DJ with a mini dance floor, and it's in a sense it's so competitive, in that you can't get away with just being niche anymore. And there's like some excellent venues, thankfully, like Kitchen Street and other places in the Baltic that do cater for really interesting music, and it's left the other places to kind of fight amongst themselves. And we'll probably talk about this again later, but I'm sure other DJs have had the experience where it's a buyer's market for as far as people who want to listen to music when they go out. And I've been in a situation literally where people have come up to me, and it'll be in a venue, and you know the type of venue I mean, where there's literally probably 12 other venues on the same street, all trying to compete for the same footfall, and people come in and go, play such and such, or otherwise we're going next door. And it's like, what?
Literally holding the gun to your head.
Yeah, what can you do? I mean, you can't keep everyone happy all the time. So I suppose coming back to what you've asking is essentially have to maintain a dynamic attitude all the time, in the sense of like the game can change any minute.
Yeah.
And you know, at the end of the day, your main purpose is to try and, whoever does come in, keep them there as long as possible. And sometimes you have to make some creative sacrifices, shall we say.
I know exactly what you mean, yes.
And I've had a few other conversations with some DJs, you know, that did used to be highly principled, shall we say, but as time goes on, you realise there's a very functional nature to grafting out those hours day after day that, like, okay, I am going to play ABBA, even though I would have balked at the idea 10 years ago.
Oh my God, it is ABBA, isn't it? It's not like, I know, right, we have a Facebook group dedicated to The View from the Booth, which is where most of us DJs congregate, and it's where we kind of let off steam, I think it's fair to say, as well as some other more productive, constructive things. It's not all moaning, it's a lot of moaning. But one of them is the seemingly unstoppable return of ABBA, and it baffles me how it really does seem to be the younger generation more than older people who are asking for it now. And if you, like you say, previously you'd be able to say, I don't like ABBA, I can do what people want, I can give them what they want from ABBA without actually having to go into ABBA. I can go here, I can go there, I can kind of like subterfuge a bit of ABBA in there. But now it's like, nah, it's like it or nothing. And I think the venues have kind of cottoned on as well, so you kind of essentially get leaned on in some places. But yeah, the whole kind of bit you touched on, the mixture between it being a desire and a pursuit of passion, and doing it for long enough and regular enough that it is still actually a job. Like, I feel like that's a shift in scale for me. And there are little nuggets I'll always give myself. So, like, if we're playing like a 6-hour set, then at least one time an hour, I'm going to be like, fuck y'all, I'm playing this song because I like it. And I think that you guys should start listening to it and hear it more. And the next time I play it, you'll all start dancing. And I have to always feed myself at least one of those an hour.
Yeah.
So, like,
your own sanity.
Yeah. Do you have similar stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I always, whenever I get the opportunity, I always try and kind of just slip in something that maybe not be completely unknown, but is like alternative enough. For I know that there'll be like a small pocket of maybe 3 or 4 really cool kids in the corner that'll just go, oh, he's playing that.
Yeah.
And they'll be made up because they're not expecting to hear anything cool, and they're just willing to put up with the kind of mediocre stuff because the place is busy and has got an atmosphere. Because they know if they just went to a place that just played their taste in music, it would be empty.
Yes. They've also had to come to terms with that reality, just the same as we have. And I want to say, if you're one of those people, can I just say thank you? Thank you. Even if it's just a case of you kind of nudging your mate and going, oh, look, listen to this. That's enough. If we see you, that's enough. Yeah. You keep us going.
Yeah, exactly. We're eyeballing you all the time. Be realising that, because, you know, if you tap your foot, you know, that is it. We're just going to go off on a half-hour set based on whatever you tapped your foot to.
Yeah, that's another one of my favourite DJ-isms that I think people don't know about is we are all amateur psychologists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we are watching you at all times, and if you think, oh, that sounds a bit creepy, damn right it's creepy. But we have to do it because this is where we get our cues from. Like, if you're in a place where the music policy is fluid, where you've got a little bit of autonomy, and you're trying to, like you say, cater for lots of different people coming in and out, you want to kind of try and keep it moving, but you don't want to. I always tried not to be too abrupt with things. So you're taking cues, you're kind of playing a song and being like, oh, what's this going to do? Like a little experiment. And so your reactions are really important to us, aren't they? Yeah,
absolutely. And especially in an era where I think the musical tribalism has kind of been diluted out. You know, there used to be a time when people would walk in, you could tell straight away what their taste in music was from what they were wearing, the T-shirts they were wearing, the shoes they were wearing, everything. But everything's become a little bit kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say vanilla, but like diluted in that everyone's got their own style, but everyone kind of looks a little bit the same as well.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And
I mean, I'm guilty of this as well, you know, because it's not
no, you wouldn't necessarily be able to guess your taste.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone's wondering what I'm wearing, I look like Mark Zuckerberg at the moment.
At the moment.
Now, there is another story. I know exactly what's going through Mo's head at the moment.
Yes.
He bumped into me in Glastonbury. What was it, 5-6 years ago?
It was
or
about
something?
6 years.
I was a different person at that point. And I don't think I could have had any more sequins on my body.
No, and it seemed like not only did you have those sequins on your body, but they seemed to kind of transform you into this this magical kind of Willy Wonka style character, and you led me on a merry dance through many fields across many random characters. A very enjoyable evening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's I spend probably 360 days of the year being boring.
And then just let it all out.
And then let it all out and go, yay!
So that brings me to another conversation about the different kinds of gigs, because obviously we've mainly been talking about bar gigs because that's the stuff that we do the most often. But you have done other gigs. You've done like festival gigs and done bigger stages.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, what's the most... What was the most surprising thing for you when you first kind of got into that?
Well, to be honest, it's probably where I started before I actually got onto the bar gigs, because even though I did that gig in Bar and I was doing this, I was essentially promoting and DJing the night at Mardi Gras and eventually other venues as well. It was still very much my own taste in music, and it was very niche. And so it wasn't really kind of relating to what we... It was kind of like the first level on a career to being a specialist DJ. But at the same time, I'd already been in bands, and I was in bands at the same time, and bands that never made it, but we got successful enough to go on, you know, tour supports with people and to go on tour in Europe a few times. Like we did tour support for... There was a band called Ism that was in there, and we did tour support for Chumbawamba. Wow.
No way.
Yeah, and it was 2-week tour with them just before they released that massive tub thumping hit, right? So they were still that anarcho pop underground thing. They had a massive following. You know, we were filling big venues. You know, like 600 to 1,000 capacity venues. They had a big pull, and so obviously Tub Thumping was a new song that they had it in their sound check and they had it in their set, and we were going, oh, let's catch a little number there.
Yeah, it might go someplace.
Yeah, and after 2 weeks of listening to it, we're like, a bit too catchy, a bit of an earworm, that one. I wish, I need to get it out of my head now. But anyway.
So you were sick of it before any of us even heard of it?
Oh, that isn't even the start of it. So basically they said to us after the tour, they said, right, we're going to, you know, we've got an album and a single coming out. We're going to release Tub Thumping, and will you do a remix of it? And we thought, yeah, great, yeah. So we did a remix of it and like spent like all day, every day, solid for about 2 weeks going, well, this is the biggest opportunity we've had production-wise. And so we want to make sure it's good, and it was good, and it ended up being the first remix on the CD single. So it was like the second track, and obviously 2 weeks of listening to I Get Knocked Down over and over and over and over and over and over again for hours on end, and we were just like feeling physically sick from the repetitive of it. And it's all right, it's Chumbawamba, it's not going to do anything, it's fine, we'll never hear it again. And then what happened? And then like it wasn't off the radio for 6 months.
So wait, did anyone actually play your remix version?
Yeah, Sky Sports used it for like their rugby program, and didn't see any money from it, of course. We got like 400 quid or something, but didn't get any PRS royalties or anything. So if you're listening, guys, want to share any of those?
Yeah, definitely.
No, but so we had some fun, and we eventually played some pretty good places with Ism. We did the first year that the Glade stage was on at Glastonbury. We did the Glade stage, and that was really good. We played with Mad Professor in Paris. Which was fantastic, but at the same time, we sounded like somewhere between the Prodigy and Chemical Brothers,
right?
And so going on first at a dub night, there was one thing I remember from that night was someone came up and goes, "This is not jar music."
I mean, he was right. To be fair,
he was right, and we knew it. Sometimes you just have to take it on the chin.
I wonder about that though. Like when you know you're on a hiding to nothing. Like sometimes you just walk in and you know it's like I am unarmed and this is going to be a firefight. I'm going to get massacred.
Yeah. It's funny because the bigger the gigs get, the higher the stakes are, and the bigger the potential disappointments can be. Because we ended up doing a couple of European tours like as headliners, and. Oh my God! No, there's part of it that I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you. It needs to be saved for a memoir when all the old people in my family have all gone. So I don't.
Well, yeah, we are going to be promoting this in places where they probably will see it. So yeah, we'll maybe put that behind the subscription. But we'll have to wait.
But in short, basically, we do some fantastic gigs in front of thousands of people, and then go to the next gig, and it might be a 2,500 venue, and 8 people turned up, and you just go, really start questioning life. So yeah, and I did that with another band called Surreal Madrid. We did quite a few gigs. We played at what's that? Benicassim Festival in Spain, and we went on because like in Benicassim, because of the heat of the day, they have a lot of the lineup going on at night. They have like. The headliners are on very quickly, and then the kind of rest of the night kind of peters out. So we were kind of going on just before Basement Jacks. So we had quite a good crowd because people were coming into the tent early going, they'll get a good position for Basement Jacks, and that was fantastic. And apart from this was a band that was the main guy behind it, Colin Owens, who used to be in Scorpio Rising. He was the main kind of creative guy in it, and I was brought in to bulk the band out when it needed on big stages and tours and stuff like that. So I played bass for them. And on this particular occasion, we'd only had 2 rehearsals before actually going out there. And so our sound guy basically said, right, I've got this multi-track tape and with all the parts for all the songs on. So what we're going to do is like everyone who knows their lines will be fine, but I'm going to listen to you in my cans. If you're playing the right notes and you're in key, then I'll fade out the bass from the backing track and I'll fade you in. If you're not, then I'll just leave the backing track in. I was like, I'm cool with that. That's okay. And so everything was going fine. I was all right, and got to the last song, and it was being filmed for MTV. The MTV cameras were there, and there was one that was like, happened to just decide at that moment to focus on me twiddling with the controls on the amp stack. I don't know what I was doing. I was just bored and probably...
Tell me you've still got a copy of that video somewhere.
I never got a copy of the video. I was too embarrassed to actually watch it, to be honest, because I was holding a knob on the amp stack when the song started with the bass line in it.
Oh no!
And I very obviously no one in the crowd could tell because I was right at the back. But like the MTV cameraman's looking at me going, the bass line's just started and he's not playing. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and he just went, shook his head in dismay. And I was like, all I had to do was spin around and go, hey, twang, twang, twang.
It was too late. He'd already looked in your eyes.
Oh, the shame. So yeah, there's some big ups and downs.
But like what you were saying before about the playing to nobody, I often think about people who've been at the very, very pinnacle and played to thousands and thousands, who are then playing in bars. And then we've all been there, us DJs, been where you go to a place and you're optimistic, and then you just kind of settle in 2 hours later to the idea there is only going to be 10 people in here tonight. And I don't know, my mind often wanders back to some of the better times. Like, how do you kind of rationalize that? Is that just like the passing of time, or just like...
Well, I think this is probably a good philosophy of life. You really got to hold on to the good memories, like your crown jewels, because they're the ones that you go back to in those times of need, when you just go, why am I doing this? Where has life led me to?
Yeah. All right. Well, that leads me perfectly to my next question. What's your favourite ever gig?
Favourite ever gig? There's so many to choose from. I don't know. There's been a few really big ones. There was a festival in Poland that we played in front of 35,000 people.
Shit.
And that was amazing. And I expected to be absolutely bricking it. But one thing I realised about playing in front of a crowd that size is you can't see those people. Like, you know, it's all, especially at night, it's all dark. All you can see is like maybe the 2,000 people in front where the stage lights hit them. And usually what happens is, like, out of 35,000 people, there's bound to be 1,000 or 2,000 at least that think you're all right, and will make their way to the front and whoop and cheer, and you just go, yeah, I'll just like, hey, we're all having a good time, you're having a good time, I'm having a good time, and it was great. So yeah, I suppose the kind of rush of you know, and thankfully I've been able to do a few gigs on that sort of scale, and I always love doing it that sort of scale because the people are already there. Yeah. You know that some of them are going to enjoy it just by the pure maths of it. But there is one gig that I want to tell you about because it was probably the best we'd ever been treated as artists.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
But at the same time,
I want some of that.
At the same time, it was probably one of the worst gigs that we'd ever done, ironically. So... take us back to like 2009, something like that. And one of the projects I'm involved with and still involved with, Addictive TV. Yep. Audio visual kind of mashup artists. These days we concentrate on a project called the Orchestra Samples, which, if you've got a chance, Google it, have a look at our videos. It's kind of world music, but it's cut up of recordings we've made ourselves of folk musicians from around the world.
Oh, cool.
And basically we record them just improvising and then make like kind of guerrillas style bands out of them where they've never met each other, but they're all jamming together kind of thing. So you get the idea. But back in this time, we were doing, you know, film remixes, mashups of like The Clash and Azealia Banks and stuff like that. So it was all kind of quite party orientated. And the government of Abu Dhabi got in touch and said, like, listen, right. So this was about a time when Dubai was really kind of starting to embrace Western culture. And
they already bought Man City by that point? I think they'd only just bought Man City.
I can't remember when they did, actually.
I think it's around the same time.
Yeah, probably about the same time, yeah. Excuse me, because they wanted to catch up a little bit with Dubai in the sense of they saw the tourism success they were having and just going, yeah, we want a slice of that. And so they said, right, so what we want to try and do is do like a big beach boutique like Fatboy Slim did in Brighton. And we were like, yeah,
give me some of that.
We like the sound of that. And he says, okay, so we're going to do a trial run. Okay. With you guys headlining. All right, okay. So we thought this is going to be great. And, you know, it was a good fee. You know, it was all like, the first time I'd ever been to that part of the world. But at the same time, I was very conscious of the fact that there was still a lot of kind of friction between their culture and our culture. Yeah. And it was about the time when Groove Rider, you know, he was at his peak. He had a weekly show on Radio 1. But he got sent down for 4 years just for having like 2 grams of weed in his bag and some porn. But, you know. And I think he got out after 10 months, and that was about the best that our government could negotiate.
And people have heard of him.
Exactly.
Like, no one's coming for your ass.
Ain't no government going to save my ass. Addictive who? No, sorry. So anyway, I was absolutely bricking it. And I just thought, I'm not taking any chances. So my suitcase, as you can imagine, had been in quite a few high-risk environments. So I'd hoovered it like about 10 times to make absolutely sure there was no traces. Because at the same time, there was stories about a Swiss national who'd been arrested and been sent down for 4 years. And 4 years was the minimum sentence for any kind of drugs, like even microscopic traces.
Damn.
And it didn't even have drugs. He had like 3 poppy seeds from a bread roll.
Wow.
Yeah, and because it did a positive on the heroin test because there were poppy seeds, and it was just like, that was in the news as well. So I was like, So you can just imagine me with my hoovered suitcase, turning up to the airport with my one suit, the Armani suit that I got from a charity shop that I brought out for weddings and funerals. All pressed and dry cleaned, looking like someone professional, and it was great. You know, got to the check-in desk and they were like, "Oh yes, we already had business class seats because being a government gig, I don't know whether they owned Etihad or part owned Etihad, but it was just like, you know." Give them comfy seats, yeah.
They like bouncing money between the companies.
Yeah. So anyway, they said, we'd like to upgrade Mr. Hollands to first class. And I was like, damn. This suit's finally paid off. So yeah, and that was like an experience that I'll probably never ever have again. But it was nuts. I mean, you get first class, and there's first class, and this was just like, you know, hello sir, you know, if you want us to prepare your bed. And it was like they pull the thing up and basically turn my whole seat into a miniature bedroom, lay the bed flat. They bring out a duvet, blanket, even gave me fucking pajamas to wear.
What? How long was this flight?
6 hours, I think, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I'd have put the pajamas on just for the hell of it. Yeah. I don't care.
And obviously, I was at the time. There was 3 of us going, and Graham, who was the main kind of creative source in the project, who did 90% of the work in the project, and there was our tour manager. So I was kind of almost a peripheral member, and they were going, "Why didn't you?" But of course, they hadn't twigged, and you know, Graham had turned up looking like he was going on holiday to Marbella. Nick, the tour manager, looked like he was going to a book reading on Hay on
you
Mar.
look like the boss.
And I looked like the boss. So I got the first class seat. All right, motherfuckers. So, even during the flight, there was a problem with Graham's seat, and even in business class, he was reclining, and it was just on the other side of where they store the trolleys, and so it was going bang, 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 and he was just like, so he tried to slip into first class in one of their spare seats, and the steward was just like, no, you're not having any of that. So in the end, there was a bit of a to-do, and I had to get up, and there was just absolutely no way the steward was letting Graham into first class. And I said to the steward, "Look, I'm sorry, he's lacking of sleep, he's a little bit tetchy, you know, I just apologise about this situation." And he's like, So bear this in mind, right? So the way we got treated, when we touched down on the tarmac, again, because it was all government funded, we got treated like international diplomats, not just like visiting artistes. It was like when we got on the touchdown on the tarmac, the steps got connected, and there was 2 Range Rovers sat at the bottom of the steps. What? And an air stewardess with our names on. They'd driven out to pick us up separately from everyone else. And when I got to the bottom of the steps, I turned around and just pointed at Graham because he was coming down the steps and go, "Oh, these are for us." And I also saw the steward who denied him a first class seat, kind of like a,
"Oh shit,
that's my hands chopped." Who are they? Who are these people?
Wow.
And so, yeah, diplomatic channel, everything, went to a 5-star hotel, got treated like absolute kings. It was amazing. But then the gig happened. And so they said, Big Beach Boutique. We're thinking, this is going to be, big production. It's going to be like, so they take us to the beach, alarmingly late in the day. So we get there for about 5:30 and we're sat in the car. So, all right, should we get out of the car and set up? And goes, oh, no, it's a family beach. And then, what do you mean it's a family beach? No, we'll get arrested as single men if we go on the family beach, because up until 6, unless you've got your family with you, you're seen as a pervert and you'll get arrested. It's like, what? You're having a laugh. But no, rules are rules.
Damn.
So we couldn't even set up until like the family beach time had finished. So anyway, family beach time's finished and we got taken out onto the beach. I was like, where's he? I'm expecting some big, No. They'd only just managed to muster up like a few kind of risers in the middle of this beach. No protection from the Middle Eastern sun to stop our equipment from just like melting. Even though it was 6, it was still hot. So, all right, just let's crack on, we'll get on with it. And they said, obviously, we're audio-visual act on the rider is the fact that we need a big fucking screen behind us. Otherwise, the whole thing just doesn't make sense, because to try and describe as quickly as possible, it basically, with film remix, for example, we'd take incidental noises out of films, like maybe a car tyre screeching or a car door slamming, and use those elements as percussive elements within like an electronic track. And then whenever those sounds appear, those little clips would appear on the screen. So the audio itself sounds very clanky and noisy, almost industrial. But when you see the video with it, you go,
Makes sense.
Yeah, of course, but there was no screen. So when's the screen turning up? And they were like, screen? No, you'll be all right. No, we need a screen. So lots of phone calls, lots of people running about. This guy turns up with what can best be described as a miniature version of a World War II blimp.
What? Like, of all the things I thought you were going to say, I genuinely thought you were going to say you had like a little TV on the stand or something.
Well, that's where we ended up. So anyway, the blimp goes on, and obviously it's like a round Zeppelin-shaped thing, and the picture was all distorted, and we're just like, no, we can't have it. We can't even make out what's being projected onto it. And then it's like there's a cultural difference, because it's coming in going, we can't tell the guy to go home because he'll lose face. And again, there's this cultural thing of like pride is such an important commodity over there. It's like once you've asked someone to do something, you can't tell them not to, because it'll be embarrassing for them and they'll be publicly shamed. And so like, okay, so we've got to deal with this blimp. So like, at least get us a TV from the hotel or something so we can stick it on front of the stage. As it happened, that was quite adequate for the crowd that turned up.
Oh, man.
Because they hadn't advertised it, and in the end, it was just people who were packing up their stuff and kind of walking back to their car going, what? What's it? Oh, interesting.
But they'd already paid you.
Oh, yeah, they'd already paid us, so that was fine.
And then who got the first class on the way home, though?
I think we had swapped by the end, so yeah, Graham got first class. Yeah.
He's only putting up with that once.
Yeah. Might have even lent him my suit.
Right. I mean, it's harder to find a bigger story to top that. So I'm going to wrap this first show up with the thing that I'm going to be asking every single person who comes on this show. You get to play your ultimate gig, and that can be wherever and whenever or in front of whoever you want. But I want to know what the last 3 tracks are.
Oh.
Now, I probably should have told you this before ahead of time, because I know what it'd be like for me go running through hundreds. But there are a few that come to mind as my ultimate thank you and good night mic drop or headphone drop moments.
Wow. Yeah. I suppose if it's like a main room vibe, I suppose I'll always have something in my heart for Insomnia by Faceless.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd probably be try and be clever and go, yeah, I'd play 3 of my own slammers that I haven't written yet.
I mean, you're allowed at least one of your own. I mean, I don't have the benefit of having my own tracks. I mean, there's a couple of mashups in the ether that I've technically got my name on, but I've never created my own track and played it out. So if you have had the ability to do that, by all means, throw it in. That's definitely allowed.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me on this maiden journey. I hope you all out there enjoyed it. And let me know. I'm sure you all will. And stay tuned for episode 2.
Cool. Thanks, Mo.